sometimes we need to have conversations that we don't want to have. And I think that with this conversation that I have with Logan, we are talking about just the coaching industry, just the entertainment industry, and how we need to hold those folks accountable for how they represent themselves. And listen, we don't have to agree. We can disagree, but we need to have the conversation. So listen in. We're talking about Snoop. We're talking about Diddy. We get into some of your maybe favorite coaches, the people that you are supporting and that maybe you want to rethink if you continue to support them. So watch, tune in, let me know what you think, and cannot wait to hear your feedback. All right, y'all, I have my hubby once again on an episode. And, you know, this was actually going to be a conversation that initially I was going to have with someone else. But I'm very happy that I'm having it with you because I think that not only is this a conversation that we need to have as people, it's also a conversation that I think needs real transparency and just to be able to really just tell the truth, like how you really feel. And I think that sometimes people don't really want to be authentic or they don't feel comfortable with sharing their true views. And I think we're just going to act like this is a conversation with us being at home.
Okay.
So, you know, for me, recently, I think we've kind of seen this in the news, whether it be with like Nelly, Snoop, you know, Diddy. We've had conversations about this with like Bill Cosby. Even on a lower scale, you know, I've been around or in different industries or groups where there's like coaches and individuals that, it's funny, I just had a conversation with another guest, Audrey, about people kind of being self-proclaimed gurus, if you will. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what happens is that these people come into the scene and we look to them and we admire them and they let us down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just want to have a conversation about what that looks like, what that means for us, and what are we supposed to do with that? Like, how do you feel about this? Like,
well, look, just to start at the beginning, I think this has been an occurrence that's becoming frequent. A lot of invaders of people in new industries.
It's true.
New people doing new things. A lot of them who don't have credentials, who don't have the training, who don't have the expertise, but who fashion themselves as experts. And really, at the end of the day, they're phonies and they're frauds.
Yes.
And we've talked about this before. This is only going to continue to be a thorn in our side of society, especially those of us who have more sensitive energy, who care about these things,
right? Who
care about things being done the right way, rather than take the shortcuts, rather than take the quick ways for the fast money.
Correct. Fast money is key.
Yeah, those are my quick thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you said several things in that, which you always do. I think, you know, we're not going to end this conversation, or we're not going to stop having this conversation after today, right? I think more of us are going to have this conversation. I think that we have to have a reality check across the board when it comes to supporting people that are, quote unquote, you know, representatives, if you will, or experts or gurus or whatever terminology you want to use.
And all these gurus, they need to have principles.
Yes.
When we talk about principles, we're not talking about making decisions in your life for money. That's not a principle.
That's not values or morals. Like, no.
Right. So we need to get back to kind of who we were, or maybe who we should be. Maybe
well, when you say, I was just going to say, you say who we were, and it's like, I think as humanity continues to grow, you know, our priorities change. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious that people have become a little bit more selfish. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they start with, and I've noticed this with a lot of leaders, I guess you will, I don't even know. I remember you just sent me an old video from Malcolm X, and he made a good point about how, you know, celebrities are never looked upon as the people that are placed on pedestals
Right.
in, you know, certain communities, you know, and somehow in the Black community, we always look to celebrities to be the answer.
Right.
And why? But the key is I think that we have to figure out if we are okay with folks representing us, because clearly that's what happens. Like, these people are representing us.
Yeah. Well, I'm not okay with that.
Well,
I'm very dissatisfied with the Snoops, the Nellys of the world. Look, there are some exceptions. There are some good leaders out there who have, and maybe some of them maybe have had an entertainment kind of background. Muhammad Ali was an entertainer, and he was a sports person, but he also transcended sports. Really, what he should be remembered for is much bigger than his accomplishments in the boxing ring.
Right.
It's what he did outside of the boxing ring.
Right.
What he did in the community, which was to galvanize people, to organize people, to tell people what the issues were, to teach people, to educate people, all of those things. So there is a roadmap. We have been there before where we've done that, where those two worlds coexisted.
But it was so...
But the difference now, and I think you alluded to this, is I think there's a lot more money involved.
Yes.
And money is really, you know, it's a gift and a curse. It's not a nice to have, but at the end of the day, money changes a lot of people's principles. It changes their values. It changes their morals.
Well, and I think, you know, that's key too. I think the thing for me is that a lot of people get to the money, the real money, off of the main supporters' backs, right? Like the regular folks, right? And then once you get to a certain level, you forget that those were the people that supported you, and that's how you got there, and their priority is now themselves.
Right. And look at, you brought up Snoop, so I'll bring it up again. You can tell, without getting too far into it, his audience and his consumer group has completely changed over the last 3-4 years.
It's changed. It's expanded.
It's expanded, but it's also grown in ways that I would have never thought would be possible, and maybe ways that I don't particularly like myself.
And it's also like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, at one point, like, he was at the Olympics. I was like, to think about where he came from and to where he is, kudos to him for accomplishing that. But it's like, how did you get there?
Right.
And, you know, to each their own, do you, but at the end of the day, we don't have to support them. So my question is what do we do when we see people being this way?
Look, number one thing I could do is I can stop to consume their products. The second thing I could do is be more vocal and made it known in a professional and a respectful manner that I don't approve of maybe the pivots and the decisions that they've made to shift their brands and the decisions that they've made to reposition themselves in their brands.
Yes. And I think
that's the choice that we all have.
Yes, we definitely have a choice, and I appreciate that choice. I also wonder if there's a way to appreciate the work that they've done. Like, for example, there was a lot of controversy when, like, all of the things happened with R. Kelly and Diddy, for that matter. And a lot of people were thinking, do I still play their music? Like, do we still play their music?
I mean, I'm not a person who does and who will. I'm not going to be. I've never been a big Nelly fan, but never been a huge Snoop Dogg fan, but I don't need to play those songs in
Or R. Kelly. I mean, R. Kelly got some good songs.
Yeah, R. Kelly, all of them. Bill Cosby, I don't really watch The Cosby Show anymore. When it comes on, you know, I just flip through, I just keep going.
I mean, that's a tough one for me.
That's a tough one.
Well, I think that's the thing.
But we have to have some principles and stand on something.
Correct. I also think that emotionally, and listen, this spans outside of the Black community. This is across the board. But emotionally, what does that do? Because for me, I was like really disappointed. I was disappointed with Diddy. I was disappointed with R. Kelly. I'm very disappointed with Snoop. Beyond disappointed with Nelly. Like, really, all of them. And on it goes. And it's like, emotionally, it kind of reminds me, and it's unfortunate because it's like you support someone, just like if you had a friend.
Sure.
That you were all in on. Sure. And then all of a sudden they change how they move. Mm-hmm. They change who they support. They change what they believe in, if you will. And everybody has a choice to do that, to each their own. But like emotionally, that kind of gives you a moment of like pause.
Oh, sure. With the two choices that I told you as far as what a response could be, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it's difficult for me or painstaking to make that decision, knowing how iconic some of the folks that we've mentioned. I know we just keep talking about folks in the music industry.
Right.
It goes well above and beyond
Correct.
the folks that we just keep calling out. So, I mean, that's part of like what makes it difficult to make that decision, because at some point in time there was a very sincere, deep admiration for the work that they've done, the grind for them to get where they are, the decisions that they had to make to get to where they were,
right.
the chances that they had to take to get to where they are. But at the same time,
and the support that we gave them,
right, that we and the public have given them. But at the same time, they made some bad decisions to all let it go. And they all threw it away. So,
well, and
so
in their defense,
at least I throw it away, at least from in the public opinion. They always say the court of the public opinion is the most important court of all.
Right. Well, and you always say you're like, America or people as a whole loves a good comeback story. It's like, can these people come back from these things?
I'd be very interested to see that. Maybe they will, maybe they
right.
won't. Each instance will be different. I'll have to measure whether they're sincere in that. Some people just want to come back to clean things up because they want more money. They want to get back to where they were. They want their status to be restored. And some people do it for the right reasons. Well,
and can we just talk about, okay, for starters, we're going to cross the border to the other side and in like more of an approach of, I guess, more relatable terms too. But I feel like there is this sense of folks being much harsher on women when they do quote unquote wrong. And like, for example, there's a lot of folks that say like when Chrisette Michele did her thing and supported someone that we didn't want her to support or didn't think that she would support, like everyone blacklisted her. And when it comes to black men, it's a whole different ballgame. People want to give excuses, or they want to be like, well, you never know, or it's business and politics. Like, I don't think you can separate the two.
I think a lot of it is, in the instance of black men, since you specifically called out black men, I think black men have internalized seeing so many black people erased, black people who were influential erased, that they feel some kind of way internally about it. They've seen people assassinated. They've heard the conversations, and people have memories about people being assassinated and being no longer there. So I think some of them, and I'm not saying that I believe this, I personally don't, a lot of them are thinking about the cancel culture is the new
right, and people are like, why do we keep sticking with cancel culture? Like, what is this cancel culture? And it's like, it just so happens.
It's about having morals.
Yes, it's about having morals, and it's also like we just so happen to have access to know practically everything that's going on because of social media and the internet.
Right.
And it's likely that all of these things were occurring behind the scenes decades ago, but we didn't see it. So now that we see it, you got to have consequences.
And I think a lot of people, and like you specifically focused the discussion on black men. Black men see it over and over and over and over again. So their natural inclination and reaction is, here we go again. Somebody else is being canceled for one thing. But really, when you think about it, usually these cases are being made off of 10, 15 cases, 20 incidents. So it's not like these are isolated.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, too. I don't think people realize, too, that when something happens, it's not like, oh, out of the blue, we just don't like you anymore. No, and also it's a character. For me, it's a character flaw. It's like, this is what you support. This is not in alignment with my goals, my ideologies, my morals, my values. So it's questionable.
And not holding people accountable.
Correct. To their decisions.
That has to be the standard for all of us in society.
Yes, and also people need to be prepared for the outcome of their decisions. Right. Like, listen, do what you want to do. Decide that this is better for you and your family, but that does not mean that everyone else is going to be along for the ride. And you have to be prepared for that. And that's even with us, whether it's a family dynamic, people may not agree what we're doing. It doesn't matter. But you have to figure out if you're okay with moving forward without that support.
Yeah, and it's gotten so bad that people make up conspiracy theories as to why,
I know.
Accusers are now coming to the table now, or why didn't they speak up about this, in the Cosby, R. Kelly instances? Why didn't they say anything?
And on and on it goes. Diddy, everybody.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Because that's how trauma works.
They were doing it.
And sometimes people don't feel up to, because somebody didn't feel up to going to the authorities, telling
their story.
someone that they were molested or bad things happened to them, they shouldn't be turned into the victim.
No.
And that's the thing that I've noticed that's becoming very, very popular.
Well, they shouldn't be faulted. They shouldn't be faulted for being the victim.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
This. And the opposite party that did the things should not become the victim.
That's right.
Okay, just to turn the page a bit, because, we have these conversations too at home, and we have before. There's a lot of people in the service industry space and like the coaching space and that just are not providing what they say they will, or they are really capitalizing on people's weaknesses.
I agree.
And I think that I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I do too, and I've seen it.
And it's not everybody, but people are doing it. And when it's fraudulent, it's fraudulent.
Yeah,
and it's costly.
Yeah, the thing that I've noticed that's disappointing for me is I've noticed the people who these folks prey on, and I'm not, again, this isn't one size fits all, it's not everyone. The people that these folks...
Well, do they prey or do they attract? They attract, then they take advantage of.
Let's flesh that
they
out.
attract, then they take advantage of certain types of people.
Yeah, and those are people who are down on their luck. Those are people who are really trying to figure it out.
They're trying to look for hope.
Those are people who really need help.
Yes.
They need guidance.
And they're drinking the Kool-Aid because they're kind of desperate.
And they're being spoon-fed dreams and pipe dreams that the possibilities of fulfilling, the dream that's being promulgated is impossible. It's not a thing. It's not a reality.
Well,
so
and
it almost feels like predatory lending. Like when the best way that I think about it a lot right around 2007 and 2008, the great financial crisis. All these people who couldn't afford houses were sold the American dream, whether they could afford it or not. So, these big business folks can issue more loans and sell more houses. I feel like it's a little bit of that.
Kind of what it reminds me of too, bringing that up? It reminds me of like when you first turn 18 and like credit card companies are hounding you to give you credit cards, and you have no idea what that means to have credit. And you end up, I did, and I know several other people that ended up in debt early on because they just did not have an understanding of how credit worked. Yeah. And they are preying on these young people that are not aware.
That's right. Another thing that I think I found is, and this may be getting a little too technical, none of the coaching world is regulated. There's no rules, regulations for if Tom, Joe, and Mary can become quote unquote coaches. Yeah. Anybody can wake up on a Sunday morning, it's raining outside, snap my fingers, I'm going to be a coach. Just like that overnight.
You have
the Twisted song.
Some of them, some people have to go through coursework depending upon the certification. So I'm going to give you
credibility.
So I'm going to give you some, but yes, it is common for a lot of folks to just say that they are, or just wake up and say that this is what I want to be and I want to gain an audience or have clients. And I think a lot of people are somewhat galvanizing folks to do that because they feel like they'll get money off of them too.
Well, sure.
And that concerns me, and I've seen it happen, and it's annoying, actually.
Yeah, when I'm talking about regulation, like the way that they market and they package their marketing to go to the market, to attract the folks that we talked about. Yeah. There's no regulation for that. Just like cigarettes are a dangerous product, it's regulated on how you market. Right. Alcohol's regulated on how it's marketed. Well, a lot of other products are. I feel like this product should have some kind of, and it doesn't have to be, a dense layer of regulation, but there has to be some control to make sure that the consumer isn't being destroyed.
It would be nice.
I think that's happening.
It would be nice for people to be able to have a better sense of knowing that things are credible.
That's right.
For sure. Right. And I think that...
a lot of it, I think your wavelength was going to, they have to have certifications. But the certifications are all made up to provide legitimacy.
Well,
to
some of them. Some of them are...
it
depends on what it is and what type of certifications it is. But I think... you're correct in saying that the majority of them are not legitimate.
That's right.
And a lot of them, And even the ones that are legitimate, which is so interesting, the ones that are legitimate, like you have to pay for them, whatever, you go through the coursework. There are others that are not necessarily legitimate that are more expensive that more people are making money off of.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah.
I just worry, even, I was going to have this conversation with a friend of mine and just this conversation of coaching and just everything. And I think, for me, it wasn't necessarily something that this person didn't want it to talk about because it's plausible that they were not necessarily engaged with, but they had a scenario where they felt faulted against someone in this space.
I've heard you talk about those instances many times.
Yes. And I think that, one of the things for me is that a lot of people feel shame behind being the person that felt that they felt like they were done wrong within that space. They were screwed and they don't want to speak up.
That's right.
And a lot of it is because they believe that there are folks in the space that are more powerful, more known, and they don't want to share. Yeah. I would just challenge people to share your story for sure, because the reality is that there are more people that feel the same way that you do. And I think that we just have to be open. Like, who are we protecting? When we don't have these conversations about Snoop, Nelly, whomever, when we don't hold people accountable, when people don't hold us accountable, who are we protecting?
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we trying to solve, or who are we trying to prevent from hurting when the hurt has already been done?
Yeah. The more I think about this, and I'm not actually haven't really been in this universe. I know because of you and how and your relationships and your exposure to this. I think about it a lot with how when I first got in real estate, everybody was trying to get into real estate. Everybody was either became a salesperson or they became a developer. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's becoming a coach. Everybody's a life coach. Everybody's trying to. But it's a fad. These things are always come and go. Fad. And all these folks will transition to the next thing.
Yes.
The next gimmick.
Oh, you're right.
After this runs.
You're right. They're like, oh, what bandwagon can I hop on? But also when you say that, you said that, a lot of people. I've learned that so many people are just utilizing the titles.
Right.
We have this conversation. You're in real estate. A lot of people will be like, I'm a real estate developer. And you're like, but.
You ask them any one-on-one question of fundamentals or what a cap rate is, they'll look at you like with a blank look on their face. And
that's how it is across the board. And it's funny because I just saw an Instagram reel where this guy, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how if you see someone on Instagram and they're saying that they're an expert, say, for example, a relationship expert, like, are they married?
Right.
Do they have a wife? Do they have a girlfriend? Do they have a successful relationship? If it's a financial advisor, do they have money? Are they truly helping people to make money? Do they have testimonials? Like, we rely on people to say things to us, and I've learned a lot of people are very confident in what they're speaking, and it may feel like they know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, but actually they have nothing to back it up.
Yeah, there's a saying in the streets that I heard a lot in the 80s and 90s growing up: don't perpetrate the fraud. And all these folks, that's what they're doing. They're perpetrating the fraud.
Well, and we need to get rid of it. I'm over the fraudulent. I think
and maybe just to maybe get on a little bit more optimistic wavelength. Maybe this transitions and it becomes something different, and maybe folks like yourself and other folks who are well-intentioned, who understand what the power of what this could be, can be instrumental to repivoting this into something that could be very magical.
Correct. I think that, the era of, we've heard the terminology authenticity for so long recently, and like for years actually, and it's come really, for me, I'm almost annoyed with the word, but it's like that's what we value, or that's what more people are talking about because it's trendy, but it's also because that's what we are in desire of.
And there isn't very much authenticity in the coaching universe from what I've seen. Again,
it's not coaching.
I'm on the outside, so I have an unbiased, unfiltered.
And in the entertainment space that's whatever, because I think people have priorities, and their priorities are typically not their, like, we always talk about target audience and audience, but like a lot of times when you reach a certain level, your priorities are no longer your target audience. Your priorities are self and your family. It's self-interest, right? And I think that's fine, but you also have to remember that the people that got you to the certain level, of course, you did it with your community and your family and everyone else, but the people that trusted you, supported you, are the people that got you.
It's your foundation.
Yes. And you're not obligated, but there's a respect exchange that should still occur because those are the people that supported you.
It's kind of like the old saying, you never forget where you come from.
Right.
Like that's your organic.
And I think a lot of people have forgotten where they come from,
I think so too.
and they're forgetting what really matters. And what really matters is not cash flow.
That's right.
What really matters is not how you are perceived. What really matters is the connections that you make and the legacy that you are creating based off of the relationships that you've built.
Amen.
Amen. I feel like that's a good endpoint. What you say?
I think so too.
All right.
I feel like this won't be the last time we talk about it.
No, me either. I think this is a conversation starter. And I think that this is an important conversation, and, no conversation is a bad conversation. It may cause conflict. It may cause controversy. That's the point of conversation.
Right.
I appreciate that. Like, everyone doesn't have to agree. Like, we can have our own opinions, but we have to be able to back up our thoughts and our opinions to make a full confluence. What's your favorite word? Confluence?
Confluence. Yeah.
A full confluence of opinions that make sense.
That's right. And we have to be real.
Real. Yeah. Real lies recognize real lies. Remember that term? Right. Did you ever hear that? That was a good one. Real. Yeah. That's so, right. Y'all, let's do better and let's hold folks accountable because, the society depends on it. And I think, why not raise our family in a better society?
Let's raise the bar.
Yes, let's raise the bar. Whoop, whoop. All right, y'all. Till next time. I already know I'm about to get some comments on here, so I'm ready for them. And let me know the truth. Give me your true feedback. We can have a conversation. Maybe I'll ignore you. But at the end of the day, we need to get to the foundation of what you truly think. So comment, subscribe, and we will continue to have the tough conversation. So expect it. But until next time, this is the Real Connect podcast. I appreciate y'all, and we'll talk soon.